Hey, this is Vlad from Nova Media Marketing, and in this video I'm going to share with you how we took a fantasy romance author from making $4,000 per month in profit to making almost $9,000 per month in just 30 days. And I'm going to share with you the whole process of how we take on a client, what we do with the ads, what we do with the blurbs, what adjustments we've made in this case, and then also share with you the ads that we're doing, the copy that we're using, the targeting, everything I'm just going to share with you. So without further ado, let's just jump over to my computer and go over it. All right, so let's just go over, the whole timeline. So this is basically when she came to us, and this is when we started doing the marketing. So those 2 months, and now it's October. So this is still ongoing. So the month is not yet. It should be even bigger than this one in terms of profit. So let's just look. So before, she was making around, if we have a look here, she was making around 4,000 profit. She was spending way more than she was making, right? So she was spending 8,600, making 4,400. Next month, she spent 8,400, made net profit 4,400. The revenue is fine. And then when we came in, we did 15,000, so more revenue, but then we spent 7,000 almost, and we made 8.7 thousand in profit. So we more than doubled the profit by actually spending less, which is great. And then this month is actually even more profitable. And by the end of this month, third month, that's basically when we're gonna go ahead and scale even more. So we're gonna be more aggressive. So we're gonna start spending more than what we're spending. So the strategy was very different. We tried to improve the performance of the ads and increase the profit that way before we go ahead and scale more money. So we're basically creating more revenue, more profit that we can later on use to scale the business even more. So let's go ahead and see what the strategy was for the books when it comes to the ads. And first, actually, let's just go to the main book main series pretty much that was responsible for the growth of the revenue. So if we look in the last 90 days, so we could just get an understanding. So this is just book one. The goal was basically to increase and we applied this throughout the other two series that we've advertised, but this is mainly the main focus that we had. So before working with us, she was basically advertising. You can see she was making $30 in revenue by spending 100, it says here euros, but it's dollars. And she was losing 71% of what she was making. Overall, she was still making profit, which is fine. But then what we did is basically we came in, we optimized the ads, we lowered the costs, and we increased the profit. So you can see like we're spending 100 to make 41, she was spending. And then we got to a point now where we're spending 121 to make 89, right? And she was even spending over 100. So we more than, depending on what days you look at, but we doubled, tripled the revenue. We had better days. And also the last few months, we're not of this year, they were not the best. So we even managed to scale during this period by maintaining the same spend. And the key things is that we tested a lot before we went ahead to improve the results. So let's just go over what happened. Before actually we do that, let's just look at the whole series. So this series, we look at the last 90 days. And the same process I'm going to share with you, we applied it throughout everything. So you can see like the overall strategy, she was still making profit. So she was spending 100, making 148, 100 making 50, 110 making 51, profit 110 making 56. Then we came in, we actually lowered the spend and we increased the profit as well. So right now she's spending 121 and she's making 220. And there's no release in the series that contributes to the growth. We just optimize things. So from 133, we lowered it to 91 initially. This is, I think, when we stepped in and did things. So let's have a look at the ads. So this is what we did when it comes to Facebook ads. So the first thing that we do is we basically, and let's just go over, let's see her date. So we're doing here, 30th of July. So in July, let's just have a look and see how things were looking for her, right? So she was spending quite a bit. Her CPC was kind of high. Then in August, I think she was still running her ads, CPC 22. And then we came in, right? So this is already our campaigns. You can see the cost dropped a lot. And I'm going to tell you how we dropped the cost. So the first thing that we did is we basically set up creative tests. And what that does, it's going to be those three that we set up initially. And what those are is basically you're taking the initial ads that she has, and then you're trying to lower the costs by getting better images. So first we start with images. This is the best way to drop the cost initially. So we tested 40 different images, as you can see here. And what we did is we asked for some information in terms of the characters to see, how they look like and so on. And we basically just created images with AI according to the description of the characters in order to create something that's relevant and also drop the costs. So you can see that we tested a lot. We have 41 and we even have as low as 8 $0.08. Obviously, there's a lot of testing that we did, and we found like basically our best images. Once we found our best image, we then went and set up a headline test, right? So here we would basically just test different headlines. And the same thing, we got it low to 6. That was the lowest. We got 10, 11 cents, and so on. But we just tested different things. The goal is to try and find something that has low CPC and high click-through rate. The reason, because even with the images, right, like with the images itself, what we did is we basically lowered the cost by just changing an image. The copy was still the same thing. It was relevant. The headline was still relevant, right? Those are ads that were generating sales before. We're just trying to improve them. Then what we did is we tested headlines. As you can see in the headline test, the click-through rate is pretty low. So it's not the best, right? Like those tests were not necessarily like the best ones, but we still managed to drop the cost even lower. And then lastly, we went ahead and tested copy tests. So here, same thing. We tried actually 38 ads, 38 different copies, and we just tested a lot of different copies to see, you know, what works. And here we basically tested a lot of different things, you know, by even mentioning authors in the copy just to see what sticks and, you know, what keywords would work, right? Like what are the things that they actually find appealing and that gets a lot of attention from the readers. So we tested a lot of those copies. Let's just have a look at this thing and see how it goes, right? So an epic romance hard to put down. You'll forget about sleep. I think that's what it says. Brace yourself for a tale of love that will become a permanent fixture of your thoughts, a narrative that will challenge and enrich your understanding of relationships lingering years to come. Right. So what's interesting about this ad, it doesn't really mention anything about the book. There's no name, there's no author name. The only thing that you can see, it's there, right? Our goal is just to get people over to the Amazon page, as many as possible, because there's a lot of things that happen when you do get low CPC and you get a lot of people on those pages. Like as we can see, the revenue on book 1, it definitely did go up. More readers are there because we know that those books are good, right? So just by doing this, so you can clearly see that it started increasing, right? So once we found our best creatives, that's when we went ahead and set up a main campaign, right? SK1. And basically, actually this one, we started it while the testing was happening. So we took her best ads that she had, right? This is her copy, initial copy, and an initial headline. We just took the best images and we started running them because we didn't want to waste time, right? Just wait until the whole creative test is finished, because that can take up to a week to kind of go through all of it. So as soon as we set that up, it started working. Now, when it comes to targeting, what we did is we actually went with broad ads because we've tested it on different clients and it seems like it's working pretty well. So we're basically not targeting anything, just 18 to 65. Everything. We're just targeting everything, and this is what worked. And then what happened is we have SK1, SK2, SK3, SK4, and then a duplicate 5, right? And this is what we're running. So we set up 1, and you can see that the cost that we had on SK1 were 15 cents, click-through rate 6. And then on SK2, we started targeting interest, detailed targeting, and our cost actually increased to 17 cents. So we actually got higher cost, which is perfectly fine. And then let's have a look at SK2. We basically went with authors that we thought is relevant, and we just narrowed them down by Amazon Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, and so on. So, right, Lini Taylor, and we've dropped it, like narrow it down with Amazon Kindle, Kindle Store. Ages also pretty wide. And then we also have Sarah J. Maas. Let's have a look at those ads as well. So, right, same one, actually. So what we did is we tested CBO, like just broad targeting versus detailed targeting. And it seemed that detailed targeting performed the best in this case. And then on, if you can see here on 3, this third campaign we set up, we spend the most money. We even dropped the CPC a bit, but let's have a look inside. So third campaign that we set up, we have the same 2 audiences, 35. So we're spending $70 here, and we've changed the ads, right? So then we just changed the copy, took the best headline, took the best copy and headline and the best image, and then we started running them. So at this point we had like the best of everything. We've learned that detailed targeting worked better for her, and we just doubled down on detailed targeting, took the best ads, started running them. So what we do is we basically 3, 4, we set up 3, 4, and then we just basically, we have to refresh the ads and try to improve things. And because like things just work and then they drop and then they work and then they drop, and then we just need to improve things, right? So I think it was about here where things started to go down, and then we decided to start increasing the budget. And if we actually look at this date, where we started to increase, which is 29th at night. Let's just go over here, right? Like that's where we started spending more. So that's when we actually, so we had on the US, we're spending on 4 and 3. So we actually added I think 4, right? So we added 4. So we're running 3, we added 4 on top of this, right? So this one was targeting Sarah J. Maas, Laini Taylor. And then we started targeting Sarah J. Maas, Laini Taylor, the same thing. So it's a duplicate of that campaign. And then we have Jennifer Armentrout, right? Which we just added this one just to see how it performs. CPC is pretty similar across the board. The ads are looking pretty good. And we've been able to get a lot of extra traffic to those pages. So experience level, right? So very just slightly different copy, slightly different images, but overall kind of the same approach. We're just, once things stop, then we just add new things. So here we have 3. Let's just actually check the ads that we have here. So in 3, we have different images, different copy, different ads. So what we did is we were running 3 and then we added budget on top by running different ads, slightly different ads to the same audiences. And then we also added Jennifer Armentrout on point. So we just showed different ads to the same audience and that seemed to work pretty well. If we see here, it did grow quite a bit, right? All the way up to 101 by spending 126. And then just kept going up. And then we had a drop, which was normal. We saw this across the board and then kind of things come back to normal here. And we're just making adjustments. And this is pretty much like what you need to do. You need to focus on increasing the revenue on book 1. And if you increase the revenue on book 1, you'll see that the series revenue will also go up. It's just how things work, right? Like clearly just increase book 1, book 2, readers started kicking in, and then they're just making more profit. And basically the same strategy, we just applied it to other books that we're advertising here, but mostly we focused on this one because the whole series is just performing better because it has more books and it's just more profitable. Now, if we have a look at the link, there's also a few things that we've done when it comes to the blurb. And we actually split tested the cover, right? She had 2 covers. We actually run a test cover on the ad just to see how people react to it. And we decided to switch it. And that's when things started to perform a bit better. And then we also experimented with the blurb, right? So we experimented with the blurb, we changed it. What we're doing is we're just focusing pretty much on mentioning, fantasy, right? So we're just mentioning fantasy romance a few times, romance, right? All those things. And we're just focusing on, so Fae Magic, Fated Love, A Line Changed Forever, right? So you know, it's like Fae Magic, Fae and Magic. We know what this is about. Fantasy, Fated Love, romance. So fantasy romance, it's very clear that that's what we're selling, A Life Changed Forever. So then it's like, okay, what's going on here? And then we get into the discussion. We're just trying to make it clear that the whole action is about, enemies to lovers. So we have enemies, we mentioned enemies. So we're just trying to convey or communicate specific tropes that would allow us to sell the book. So Garrett Brennan only has 1 year of training, right? So you have the training trope, Asian battle techniques, right? So it's going through the training phase, her fate forever, and she sets off to a fantasy adventure, right? So fantasy adventure, exactly what this is about, right? So enemy, slaves, he enslaves her to an enemy with a deadly past. So there's like something going on in the past, there's enemies, so enemies to lovers, all those things. So, and then another key thing that we're doing in the blurb is we're mentioning, if you're a fan of Sarah J. Maas, you won't be able to put down, right? You won't be able to put this book down. So we're very clearly targeting a specific set group of readers, fans of Sarah J. Maas. We've actually tested with a different author and actually that didn't work out. And then once we've actually changed it to Sarah J. Maas, then that's when it started to perform better. Scroll up, grab a copy so you have a call to action, and then we have praises for Shattered Kingdom. Again, we're just making sure this book left me feeling exhilarated, delighted, and hot. So we know it's romance. This series was fantasy in fantasy romance. So fantasy, they just know what this is. Feels so good to watch these enemies find each other in a dark, mysterious world, right? So enemies to lovers, an epic fantasy romance, exactly what this is, hard to put down. So we're just trying to, tell them like, this is what this is, right? This is what you're getting, fantasy romance, enemies to lovers. This is what we're giving you. And because this is what's appealing to them. And that's exactly what we did. So this, I think, was an important part in this specific case. So changing the blurb did help. It kind of allowed us to get better results. So you start with the ads and then you see how the ads go, right? That's exactly what we did. We saw how the ads go. They started getting better and then we tried to improve overall the impact that we're having with the ads. And we did that by changing the blurb. We experiment with different, fan groups that we're targeting, and then we change the blurb and then actually change the cover as well. So sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes you don't have to change anything, but in this case we had the option to test the covers. We already had the covers, but sometimes this is what it takes if you want to scale. You can't expect to just set up some ads and like them working. That might work sometimes, but not all the times. And with this case, what we're basically going to do is we're actually now going to scale more. So because we didn't, right? So we try to create more revenue and more profit so we can scale. We dropped the costs and we increased the profit revenue. And then next month, we're basically going to go more aggressive and scale even more. So if we look at this case, this is why I have this here, right? In this case, book one, right? This is book one. It was making 79, we're spending 115, right? And then we actually scaled very aggressively. We're spending 731 in total, and we're making 386 in revenue in book one, which is amazing. Like, that's amazing what we want to do. And then we dropped the spend. Book one made 400, and obviously the revenue dropped. We're spending, like, losing less money here, and then it's just a kind of a downtrend here, and then we're actually scaling again, because here there was this period where all revenues, basically people losing like 30-40% of their revenues. So it wasn't the best period, I would say, to keep the spend high. We tried it a few times, didn't work. We just let it run down, and now we're going to scale again. And if we go to the overall account, we can see that, so this is book one, this is the spend that you're seeing here, and then this is the same spend, right? So you see the spend across, we're spending $800 a day. So what happened is the business went from, making 728 in revenue and making 492. We had to take a hit because we just scaled very aggressively. So we're spending 895 and making 299 in profit. And then we dropped the spend, and then all of a sudden the business is making 827 in profit from 500, right? And then we just played with the ad spend, and then even though we had this decrease, we got to a point where we're making $1,000 in profit by actually spending less, right? So it's all like thought out. We're just trying to hit a monthly profit in this case with this client, and you can see that now, like, things are actually starting to grow back. They're out of the downtrend. They're more stable and they're growing up. But sometimes, like, it takes different approaches for different cases. If you want to scale slower, just increase the profit, there's a different approach. If you want to be more aggressive, then there's also a different approach to that. And you can just kind of double the profits in a shorter period of time. I mean, which we also did here, but just not at the same level, right? Like, if we're going to go ahead and spend 15,000, then we're probably going to make, I don't know, like $20,000, $25,000 in profit if we were to be more aggressive with the spend. So that's pretty much it. If there's any questions about what I just showed you here, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. I can get back to you and tell you what you could do in your case. But as you see in this case, there's a lot of changes that we did, and there's a lot of things that you might have to do in order to get success with ads, similar to what this client did. And yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any sort of questions, leave them in the comments below. If you found this video useful, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the videos with other authors that you would think they could find useful. And let me know what are the things that you are having issues with, or what are the challenges that you have currently in your business, and I'll get back to you in the comment section.